is our guide in the vast expanse. It's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the grooves around us, everything's alright.
From the foundation X quest, the truth is our guide in the vast expanse. It's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the grooves around us, everything's alright. SNX radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spots. Heavy bass drops with tight beats.
Illuminate the shadows, the echo of our call.
On this roller ring will never fall.
Feel the energy rising, can you sense the spark? As we dive deeper into the cosmic arc.
Stories of the universe, mysteries unfold. In the heart of SNX, where the truth is gold. Every note we play, every line we write, crafting our legacy, shining ever bright.
SNX radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spot. Here in the spotlight, we're taking our turn. With the fire in our hearts, let the passion burn. SNX radio's call, ringing through the air. Together we rise, together we dare.
So join us now, let the rhythm flow. With SNX radio, we're ready to go. Unraveling the mystery side by side, we stand hand in hand. In this dance of truth, let the story expand. Out in the dark, the stars align. Oh yeah, signals flashing, a secret sign. Sasquatch whispers, UFOs glide. Mysteries unfold, can't hide, can't hide. Voices in the static calling me, calling me. A cosmic rhythm setting me free. SNX, feel the vibe, let it flow. Connections glowing, don't you know? SNX, light the night, let it show. Cosmic groove, we're ready to go. Footprints in the woods, shadows move, move. Skyline flickers, it's a neon groove. Expert stories witness sight, unravel truth in the cosmic light. Voices in the static calling me, calling me. A cosmic rhythm setting me free. SNX, feel the vibe, let it flow. Connections glowing, don't you know? SNX, light the night, let it show. Cosmic groove, we're ready to go.
Hi. So, welcome to SNX Radio and Typical Skeptic Podcast. I'm Coley, and you got Rob here today. So, I'm going to let Rob go ahead and take this over while I finish dropping your show live. Oh, Rob, we can't hear. Okay.
Yeah, good. Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? I hope everybody's having an amazing day. It's been some crazy energies lately. I hope everybody's kind of like hanging in there. But like, it's weird. I'll just go before we get into our guest. I thought we were going through the Lionsgate and the full moon, and then it seemed like the energies seemed to like shift again. So but I have a feeling it's just a phase. But today we have another amazing guest. It's going to be awesome. We have with us James Gilliland. He's an internationally known author, lecturer, minister, near-death experiencer. As the founder of ECETI Ranch in Trout Lake, Washington, James has created a world-renowned hub for UFOs, sightings, orb activity, and direct ET contact. His work bridges spiritual awakening with interstellar communication, guiding seekers toward higher consciousness and galactic unity. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome to the show. James, thanks so much for coming on. And how are you?
Oh, doing great. How are you doing?
Good. Good to see you.
Yes,
Hope
welcome,
everything's
James.
good. Usually, it's just crazy all the interference we've been getting. In my show at ECETI Stargate over there, they totally hacked my computer. They hacked my producer's computer. They shut everything down. I don't think it's still loaded right yet. It's like they did not want that show to get out. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
They do. It's the interference is endless. It really is.
Yeah. Well, they say, if you're over the target, you receive a lot of flack, and so we must be on top of the target.
You're doing something right.
Yeah, there's some latest the latest things happening. It's been crazy. People that aren't aware of ECETI, it's a 72-acre retreat, and it's right at the base of Mount Adams, and it's one of the most well-known UFO hotspots on the planet. And there's so much activity. I mean, we're seeing fleets flying over the ship, landing on the mountain, motherships coming over. We just got another huge mothership filmed, long, really long one with all different colored lights on it. And it's just the activity is ongoing. And I'd say it, but it's been ongoing for 40 years and documented. And it's probably one of the most censored UFO places on the planet. It's I guess they're very upset because the problem is it's not an old story. It's still happening, and we've had tens of thousands of witnesses, probably hundreds of thousands over the years of witnesses that have seen the ships themselves. And we're talking triple PhD born engineers, Lockheed Skunk Works engineers, Air Force base commanders, air traffic controllers, all testifying that. And they watch these ships too, and they said there's nothing that could take the G-forces they see. I mean, some of these things are going like 250,000 miles an hour, and they stop, and then they do a right angle turn or something. And we don't have a pilot that could handle that. It would. I don't think we have a craft that could do that. I'm sure we don't have one that can go 250,000 miles an hour, but there's just no, everybody that's seeing these ships are just going, they're not ours. I mean, this is the top people that know about all the skunk works and everything else, and they've testified, they've gone forward and testified. So, I mean, it's a done deal. We have the witnesses, we have the photographs, we have the videos. It's still happening, but the only thing is it's escalating right now, and we just got a photograph by one of the guests here. Took a photograph of the mountain, and the door opened up. There's a huge door on the mountain, and that door opens up to a whole galactic airport and a inner Earth. It's a doorway to the inner Earth.
Whoa!
So I'm pulling it up right up on screen right now. So this is the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and this is on the mountain. Actually, it's on the mountain. And it's right smack in the middle of the mountain. This door opens up and ships go in and out of it all the time. So because the door is going off insanely all the time now, the amount of ships we're seeing here, the all shapes, sizes, colors, it's obvious something really big is getting ready to happen, or it is happening right now. So it'd be, I don't know if they're lamestream media is ever going to cover this, but
lamestream media, that's great.
you'll see it. see it yourself. That's a cool thing. But we're actually documenting all this, and we have it on the ECETI website on the ECETI also
And that's
ECETI Stargate.
ECETI.org is your website.
Yeah, or you can go to ECETI Stargate on X or Rumble, and these are all posted there as well.
Yeah, we're gonna get those links. So too, if you're following James, he does a show every Saturday night on Rumble, and that's ECETI, and then that one's Stargate Official. Is that correct,
Yeah,
James? Okay.
exactly.
Yep, and you can find him on follow him on X, follow him on Facebook. He's always updating, always putting more and more documentation out there. So I encourage you to go and dig through it. Can you explain this one? Just absolutely blows my mind. I'm going to pull this up, and if you could tell our listeners what exactly this is, because this one just blows my
Whoa.
mind. This blows my
Okay,
mind.
I haven't seen these yet, guys. By the way, so I mean, Coley didn't show me these yet, or James did. So these are the first time I'm seeing them with the audience, and I'm absolutely amazed. I just wanted to say, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, in front of me is a microphone, and I'm actually standing on stage at the International UFO Congress. And I actually turned into a light beam while I was on stage, and I had some 9 to 12 foot light beams stand behind me. And I'm hoping they aren't going to censor that, but I don't think it's on the original CD. I think it kind of went off but anyway, I was never asked to come back. And it's what happens when I go to these things. I drop truth bombs, and I tell so what's really going on all the way up to the 13th dimension. And if you talk about the spiritual and technologically advanced beings that want to help us make a quantum leap in evolution and bring in all these fieldless energy, anti-counter-gravity, the healing technologies, and everything else, you get censored. You get shut off, shut out, and worst case scenarios, you get deleted. Basically, you get
Right. So what people are seeing in front of you, that's a microphone right there.
Yeah,
right? That's
I'm
coming in.
standing on stage, and that's the microphone in front of me. And so, we teach a lot of these techniques. We teach how to go out of body, how to raise your frequency, and we teach Qigong, the very ancient. So it's like the original airbender techniques. We teach that, and a lot of things. I have a self-mastery ambassador training coming up this weekend, actually, and we're going to teach a lot of this. But we introduce people to all these higher dimensional beings. They have their own experiences in these workshops, and we tell them who's who in the neighborhood, on the highest up to the 13th dimension. And we also cover the lower dimensional stuff that, we need to shield up and protect against, and teach people how to heal unseen negative influences. Because, there's we have a saying, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. And there are a lot of people that are in ignorance or willingly working with the darker beings and don't even know they are. And they're saying, just open wide. You don't have to create sacred space. You don't have to do clarions. Just let anything come in. And some of the top people in ufology are saying these things. And there are no negative ETs. There are no negative entities. It's like there's no earth changes coming. It's really weird. All they have is a half-truth, a feel-good message, and they don't cover both sides of the coin, which is unfortunate. But there's a lot of that going on, and people need to realize that ufology right now is a controlled narrative. Everything they're putting out now is a limited hangout, and they're not covering the benevolent side of things and the higher dimensional, spiritually and technologically advanced beings. They don't want to cover that because if they come in, it's game over for the tyrants, basically.
Oh yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you think they're trying to push a fear narrative as well, James?
Yeah, this was it C1 Atlas or I can't remember what the name of it is. They're really pushing that one to kick off the fake ET invasion. You should be very scared. And I was watching these guys talk about it, and I was watching even some remote viewers and people that aren't as good as they think they are. But they're all coming on. And if you really were a good remote viewer, you'd look into that and you'd know what it was. And we've looked into it. And actually, that group is part of that's connected to the Ahians, which were some of the original inhabitants of the earth. They had those 600 million year old tunnels, glass line tunnels. And that group is returning, but they're neutral. They're not here to engage at all. They're joining the councils and giving them, spiritual support and consciousness and energy support, but they're really neutral. And I noticed when we tried to tune into them, they just kind of put their hand up and they just said no, that they kind of like didn't want to engage that way. They just want it they want to be a backup behind the scenes. But they're all these things, like, I can't remember the name of that. It's like Umu Mua or something. I can't even say it right. Same thing. They're trying to say that one's Death Star, and they're coming here to create human pilaf, and it's a meat wagon. I've heard everything. It's all fear. It's all nonsense. But the negative ETs have been here for 400-something thousand years. And they're cleaning that up. They're cleaning up all their underground facilities and all the other things. Those are all being cleaned up right now. And so the real threat is that. And then there's actually there's like the royal reptilians and the serpent beings, and they work with the satanic Luciferian groups, the international banksters, and it goes down the food chain to you've got negative grays and other reptilians and things like that. But that whole mess is being cleaned up. That whole tyranny program is coming to an end. And they're cleaning out all the underground facilities and all the child trafficking facilities. All that stuff is all being cleaned out right now. And you don't have anything to worry about what's coming in, because what's coming in is beyond our imagination. And they're good. They're benevolent. And so the threat has always been here, and they're cleaning that out. And then below the Illuminati boys, the satanic Luciferian banksters, you've got the corrupt politicians and all the other stuff going on. And that's all being exposed right now. They're all the deep state. It's all being totally exposed. And so it's becoming unraveled. And I always tell people, don't get caught up in all that stuff, because it's going to be, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But there's nothing that can stop what's coming. It's multidimensional. It goes all the way back to the source, God, creator, great spirit, whatever you want to call it, is pressing in along with the councils, along with the benevolent ETs and the ascended masters, everything. It's all unifying right now and pressing in on the earth. So it's basically game over. They already lost, and now we're going through the cleanup.
James, do you think the ETs want to see open contact with humanity? I mean, like, I know, like, people are having contact now, but, like, I'm talking like like the famous, like, land on the White House lawn type deal. Do you think something like that?
I don't think so, be honest with you. I think they will be contacting a lot of like Tibetan monasteries and ashrams and things like that in the beginning, people who are really focused on enlightenment and raising their frequencies, people just in general all over the world that are just good people. And they have some foundation in universal law, and they have a high level of integrity and morality and things like that. Those are the people that are going to be contacted. They can't really come through religions or governments until those governments have been cleaned up and weeded out, and the other forces have had control of that. So that's all being cleaned up right now.
Yeah, you made a ton of valid points right there. I mean, so it's like this is basically the cleanup crew that's coming in. What do you think they're preparing humanity? Then will it be kind of a unification with all humanity, do you think, or?
Eventually, the groundwork is being laid right now. The first thing is peace. We have to have peace. Universal peace is the first first thing, and that's being laid out right now. All the wars are ending and things like that. And then we've got to deal with poverty. And poverty is the reason for the crimes and the divisions and all the other stuff. Like every war we've been in is because one king or leader wanted what another king or leader had. It has nothing to do with holy wars or God or anything else. It's all been about propaganda and getting the people to rise up against their neighbors and to fulfill some king or leader's desires. I mean, we have to come to terms with that. I think everything is happening at once because the real history of Earth is coming out now, and the archaeologists and all these guys are finding that we're a series of colonies, and whoever was here before us were so advanced. They're way beyond any of our scientists today and their technologies. They were spacefaring, and that the Earth was colonized multiple times, and that the images of the bearded gods that we have of the past were the Anunnaki, which were actually ancient Lyrians. And so a lot of our beliefs are created around those beings on how they interacted with humanity. And you really think about in primitive days, a good example is if you read Ezekiel, and we talked about it earlier, in primitive days, okay, this shiny disc comes out of the firmament, and it has bronze feet like calves, and it has fire and brimstone coming out from underneath it. When it lands, it sounds like 1,000 rushing rivers. And so out of this stepped supposedly God and ordered 10 of his men with their shattering weapons to destroy all the men, women, and children of Israel. But that's the origin of the wrathful God. And so we have to let go of those old graven images and stories and understand what really happened in the past. Because, either God is all loving, all forgiving, or God is a genocidal, jealous, wrathful God. Which one is it? It can't be both. And unless it's totally schizophrenic, but, so really those were, the Old Testament was the jealous, wrathful, genocidal God. The New Testament was the new covenant that Jesus brought, where he talked about an all loving, all forgiving God. And until we understand that, we're kind of like crazy, we're trying to put that together. But when you understand the real history of Earth, and then you read these sacred texts, you go, oh, I get it. Like Shiva, these guys are blue-skinned people, well, there's whole races of blue-skinned people out there, very advanced beings, that from the Andromedans that were coming in here. But when you know what's happening in the universe, the real history of Earth, it all makes sense, but it doesn't until you really understand where the little g gods came from, and throughout history. But you can't get away from the pyramid. They've got these giant cylinders and buildings down there, and their frequency generators, and the technology is just off the scale what they're doing, and what they created in the past, and that's they can't get around that. They can't act as if that isn't there, or that wasn't built. And it's at Angkor Wat, and it's several other places. They all have the same thing going on. And Göbekli Tepe is another one. Some very, very advanced beings built that. Then they covered it up again, so we'd find it later. But they stopped digging on that. They kept digging, and they started getting all these big reveals that were going, hey, our history's wrong. Everything's wrong about our history. And so they buried it and said, okay, no more digging. No more digging. This is upsetting the religious folks and the scientists, and everybody has to rewrite the books. And so they go, okay, we have to stop digging.
James, I got a question. I was thinking about the Gnostic, point of view, where they talk about how Sophia creates Yaldabaoth, and he's like the demiurge, which is like a false god, right? Do you think that's like symbolic for what's going on? Like, how you said like the God of the Old Testament was kind of like sadistic, and then the New Testament, he's like all loving. It makes me think, well, like, did the Gnostics have a point where they maybe our reality is controlled by some kind of demiurge type figure while we're trying to search for the real source or creator?
Yeah. Well, this scenario was played out. It played out with the Anunnaki, which are actually the ancient Lyrians that came here, and they're very tall. Some of those guys were 24 to 30 foot tall beings. And then they had the demigods, which were the they mated with humanity, which they upgraded, genetically, and then created the demigods. And so you'll hear this same story throughout all the ancient scriptures, even the Greek, like Samson and all these guys. They were all half God, half God, half human, you might say, demigods. And so it all makes sense when you look into this. And in the Bible, it says, the gods found the humans to be fair and took them as wives and created they talk about the demigods and all that stuff. But that did happen. It is real. And like in Enki and Enlil, Enki was he was more like the all-loving. He loved creation. He did a lot of genetic tinkering with humanity. He wanted to keep upgrading humanity and get us into a really high state. And he did that, actually. And a lot of humanity joined the Anunnaki when they left, because they had to leave because of the pole shifts and the great wars that were going on. And they have a history of colonizing a planet and then getting into turf wars, dividing, and then destroying themselves. It's a pattern. And that pattern is happening on Earth, like Atlantis and Lemuria. The same pattern happened there, where the Atlanteans, they went into technology. They broke away from universal law, or the law of one. Everybody has different names for it. And the Lemurians were also spacefaring too. And they said, hey, you guys are using your technology and your wisdom to control and manipulate and dominate. You're breaking universal law. So they sent their beam ships over there, and they pretty much melted it down. And that there's huge glass sheets in the Gobi Desert. Everybody goes, where'd this glass come from? Well, that's the remnants of the Lemurian colonies that were there, that were melted down by the Atlanteans. But we have that same pattern, and now we're doing it again. If you really look at what's happening right now, we've got the technocrats, and those guys trying to monitor and control everything, and making some pretty exotic weapons, and using frequencies and energies to control and manipulate people and take out people too. But you have that group, and then you have the other groups going, hey, wait a second, this is a republic, this is a constitutional republic, you're breaking the rules, and so there's that same thing, mindset is happening again. But enough people, I think, woke up to what's going on, and they're not gonna go for it this time around. They're not gonna allow the big turf wars to happen. They're not gonna participate. But you can see right now the division going on. There's a group that is dividing the religions, the cultures, the races, the genders. They're doing everything to create civil unrest and divide and conquer. And and not to be political, but mainly that's the whole Democratic platform. And you got some rhinos in there too that are doing the same thing, and the war industry guys, and we're actually coming to that same epoch, situation. And then now you got the peacemakers that are coming together and saying, hey, enough is enough. Enough of the war industry, enough of the big pharma, enough of all this crap. We're done. And they're coming together, and the present administration is more aligned with that group. And I'm not saying they're perfect, but they're more aligned with that. They really want to create peace, and they want to empower the individual and go back to a republic, and the Constitution, the Constitution is actually mirrored by universal law, basically.
So basically, we've been in like big Anunnaki turf wars that kind of go back to Enki and Enlil, and they've been fighting for they're like kind of pulling the strings behind humanity, kind of in a way.
Yeah, and Enlil was a defeated general, and he was working with Marduk, and Marduk made a pact with the reptilians, and so we've been under draconian law for like 450,000 years because of that. And so although it looks like we have democracy, we're really a republic, but it makes it look like we have a republic or a democracy, but we really don't. It's in words we have it, but in draconian law and the way things are run and everything else, it's not. It's it's not really it's not really serving the people or for the people, but that's flipping right now. That's totally changing, and we're going back to reinstating the republic, reinstating universal law, the Constitution, and in a republic, everybody's king. There's no, democracy. All you need is 51%, and then you use the lamestream media to totally brainwash and socially engineer them. And now they're doing their bidding, and they don't even know the real truth of what's behind the scenes and who's pulling their strings, basically.
Wow. I just got to ask you this real quick about the Anunnaki. Have you ever heard that either Enki or Enlil's mother was like a half reptilian, or somewhere the Anunnaki merged with came together with the reptilians? Is there any truth to that?
Well, they're not reptilians. They're actually our ancestors, and the ancient Lyrians, which are actually referred to as the Anunnaki, colonized the Pleiades, the Hades, and the Orion system before they came to Earth, Mars, and Meldeck, or some people called it Malona, and it exploded and became part of the asteroid belt. But the Pleiadians, their ancestors are the ancient Lyrians. And so they were the peaceful Lyrians, and they went to the Pleiades, the Orion system, and Hades, actually. And there's a thing in the Bible. They said if you don't behave, you're going to Hades. They have words about Hades and stuff. And Hades is a really desolate, hot planet. Not a lot of water on it or anything. And so if you're a real screw up, they sent you to that colony, basically. But people don't know the real history of all this stuff. If they did, it's just like Jesus, the story of Jesus, and not to be a Bible thumper, but there's so much more to the story of Jesus that people don't know. His ancestry, before he incarnated, where did he come from? He actually brought in the wisdom of 12 grand masters, and he chose the disciples to each portray the wisdom of each one of those masters. And he came to bruise the head of the one who bruised the head of man, according to Scripture, which was the Old Testament God. And he came with Yahweh to get rid of the Old Testament God and reinstore the image of an all-loving, all-forgiving God. And we're still reeling under the effects of the past, and not realizing that it really wasn't God that destroyed cities and did all these genocidal stuff. It wasn't. It was a spiritually backwards but technologically advanced being that was here. I won't mention his name because people will get really mad at me, because there's churches created to worship the genocidal, jealous, wrathful God.
Yeah,
I agree, 1,000%. 1,000%. We've even talked about it before. I said you can watch George Carlin, and it's like the skit right there says it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's so obvious when you look at it. If you look at it from, I don't want to say from an enlightened stage, like I've had 2 near-death experiences and everything, and I've studied for 40 years with lamas and yogis and everything. But if you look at it, understanding the real history of Earth, it makes sense. But if you don't know the real history of Earth, none of it makes sense. I think it's Gina Seminara wrote a book where there's over 7,000 complete contradictions, in the Bible. And the Bible was taken out of a whole room full of books, and the King James version came from a whole room full of books, and they didn't get it done quick enough, so he hacked off the heads of a couple scribes, and then they got it done really fast. But people know that some of the old Bibles have the Apocrypha in them, and it has all the teachings of women. It has the teachings of Archangel Michael about reincarnation. Everything is in there. And so we need to get the most ancient Bible. Like, I know where there's a Bible written on lambskin. It's really old, and there's no wrathful God mentioned in it, but these books are still out there, and all this stuff is going to be revealed, because with the Vatican has hidden all this stuff, that's all being opened up right now. And there are people that were in the Vatican that had really high level access that know all this stuff, and they've written books and putting it out there. You know, Michal Ledwith is one of them. He's put out a lot of these books about what's the real. He wrote a book called Saving Jesus. I always tell people to read it because it's really written from a scholar who was an advisor to the Pope and really brought out the real stuff, you know, which they really came down on him for doing that.
I bet they did. I bet they did. There's not a doubt in my mind that they did.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead with what you're saying. I was going to say, we had a couple questions here. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So Polly, our Polly Roderman, she wants to know, can you please tell us disclosure what it means for aliens and how actually they plan to do it in your, I guess, wisdom and the communication that you have?
Yeah. Well, like they come here and they check out Earth and they go back and they try to tell people about humans and they go, no, that's not real. That's not real at all.
Right.
They're like destroying their environment and they're killing their own people and you know, it's like horror stories to them, some of the stuff we do. So it's kind of it's really interesting. Now, disclosure is going to happen, but it's going to come from the skies. It's already happening right now. Ships are appearing. We're seeing fleets of ships here, motherships, every color, everything, you know, underground things open. It's insane what's happening here, but it's happening around the world. And people are seeing ships everywhere. And don't be confused with the drones and the New Jersey stuff. That's a big mix of stuff going on there. It's more than one thing. But it's just a big distraction. But the actual, these motherships and ships that are, I watched this NASA scientist and talking, and he said, yeah, this ship came down. You could fit like 100 747s in it, and it was going 250,000 miles an hour, and it came to a dead stop. And so you really think about something that can do a dead stop at 250,000 miles an hour, a right angle turn that big, is beyond the imagination of almost any of our engineers on how that could happen, because that would kill everybody on the ship basically, unless they had something to block inertia and all that, but which they do. But I was watching these two guys talk, and they were supposed to be the brightest minds, you know, in NASA, and they're doing their own form of disclosure, and I'm going, this is kindergarten. You know, this is like, come on, guys, this is kindergarten. And then we've had a lot of NASA people come and comment on our stuff that are part of the system. And they go, oh, that's the space station. They're just mistaking the space station. I go, well, it landed on Mount Adams. Like when's the last time the space station landed? And it morphed into 3 or 4 and back to 1 again. And it took off with a military jet chasing it, you know? So it's just like, I don't even know how, you know, like Roswell, they come up with a new story. And I think the last story was Project Mogul, which were balloons, weather balloons. And then they were saying it was a German weather balloon trying to fake us out. And then I can't remember all the stories they've tried to come up with Roswell. And the first responders, my grandmother was very good friends she's in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and she was very good friends with the owners of the ranch. I think it's the Brazel and Swenson Ranch, I think it is. Brazel's the guy that found it. And there were bodies, everything there. And these sheriffs were sitting with her because she was the school teacher. She was the matriarch of the town. And they had to tell somebody, so they went to talk to her, and they said, you cannot talk to anybody, you know, about this. If you do, you know, you're toast basically. But they were so upset about it, they had to talk to somebody. And she said, these guys are honest as the day is long, salt of the earth, good old boys, you know, and they couldn't hold a coffee cup. They were like, their hand was going like this, shaking. After the experience, they're really shaking, and they talked to her about it, and she said, of course there's life out there. She goes, you know how big this universe is? And she said, why would God create Earth and that's it. What a small creator, and she was kind of talking them down about it, just saying, do your research. What is there? I forget, something like 500 billion stars in our little galaxy. And there's now they're up to 500 billion something universes. I don't know what the numbers are because they keep changing. But, you look at the numbers and you just say, how could we be so arrogant to think that we're God's chosen humans and that's it, So what we're finding out is there are beings that have been on Earth 600 million years ago, and they lived underground. They had a tunnel system and glass-lined caves and things. And they found some that are 300 million years old in Brazil as well. And then those were the Ahians and the Sai were those two groups that were here. And then our latest history goes back to the Lyrians, the Lyrans actually, and they were referred to as the Anunnaki. And then they had the pole shift, they had the wars, and then everybody had to start over again as primitives. And the second colonization was Atlantis and Lemuria, and that was by the Pleiadians. And so the Earth has a long history of colonization from the stars. And I tell people, if you want to see an ET, just go walk in the bedroom, bathroom, turn on the light, look in the mirror. We're all ETs. And our genetics are actually communicating with the stars right now. We're communicating them. Our DNA is actually in conscious communication with all these other beings if we just sit down and listen and learn to meditate and tune in and develop ourselves telepathically.
We got a question from Rumble, James. The guy watching on my Rumble channel, his name's Finsta. He says, I would love to hear James's thoughts on the remnant water dragons. Which is weird because it seems like the dragons are coming back into the collective, right? A lot of people are starting to channel dragons and people are having dragon contact. And what do you think's up with that?
We've actually seen dragons here. There's quite a few witnesses were here, and we saw a dragon come out of the mountain. It was flying around, and I thought it was because there's a lot of witnesses that have seen pterodactyls. It's actually a pterosaurus. It's the one with the ball on the end of its tail. And there's police have seen it, Forest Service guys. We saw it here flying around because we're right next to the mountain. And multiple witnesses have seen that. And then we saw something else flying around the mountain that was definitely leathery wings. It was very big, and it did look like a dragon. And we found out later in communicating with the Inner Earth people that they have dragons on the interior there. There's a big red dragon in there, but they do exist. And throughout history, there's a long history of dragons, and there's different kinds, like water dragons. There's a lot of kind of like sorcerers would get a dragon and then train it, and so it depended on who was working with it as to what it did, and there's a lot of. I mean, they found the bones of dragons. They found the bones of unicorns too, and half man, half horse. What are those called? I can't remember. Centaurs. I think. Yeah. They found the bones of that, but what they do is they found a perfect centaur with a human top and the spine going down and connecting into a horse perfectly. And they said, oh, that was a wolf that killed the human and he killed the horse. And then he pulled them together and just happened to drop them off. Right. That's how far they're stretching. So they don't have to admit that these things might have been real in the past.
Yeah. Someone else wanted to know, I think you answered this last time, but for the people who might not have tuned in yet, someone to ask, what makes Mount Adam so active? Do you think it's would you say you're actually in a portal area? I mean, I know we talked about ley lines, I think, as well, but do you think it's literally like a portal that opens up where these beings, are they actually inside the mountain too?
Yeah, inside the mountain. We've had remote viewers come up here, John Vivanco and quite a few others. And they all remote viewed the mountain, and some of them did get in. Some of them couldn't get in because they were blocked, but they didn't ask permission. That's why they didn't get in, and they couldn't see it. But you have to be humble, you have to be respectful, and you have to ask, and then you can go in and see what's going on there. we've done a lot of remote viewing classes here, and the people in the class just nailed it. I'd say 80% of them nailed it. And the remote viewing, they just give you coordinates. They don't tell you anything. And they did it with me. And I drew a picture of the mountain, and I had a Bigfoot standing in front of the mountain at a door, and I had a ship in the sky, and the different levels, what was in there. And it was really interesting because I didn't even know what I was remote viewing. And then when they said, okay, this was the target, it was a huge light ship that came over the house and went into the mountain. And so I even drew the guy with his lapel. He had little bars on his, like he was some kind of military, off-world military or something. And so, John goes, that's a 3 martini remote view there. He goes, you nailed it. And then another one was, just as an example, I didn't know what it was, but it was Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln. And it was the assassination was the coordinates that we're supposed to remote view, which wasn't fun. But so I looked into it, and I drew a picture of a theater, a balcony, a big black swirling energy there. And I said, something really bad happened here that affected the whole nation. And then I got a searing headache, what's the head wound from where he was shot in the theater. And then I drew a picture of a top hat, the black top hat, and then a black cat. Okay, so we couldn't figure out, everything else made sense. It was just right on the button. And then we couldn't figure out where the cat fit in. And then we looked it up, and we found out that Lincoln was the first one to bring a cat to the White House, and it was a black cat, and it still roams the halls there. It's like a ghost kitty, and they see it every once in a while. So it's pretty bizarre. And so they got detailed information that I've been talking about for years. They totally verified it, that there is a base inside that mountain. There's also a level of technology that's pumping energy out, which we can film using PIP technology. There's more energy coming off that mountain than the pyramids. It's a massive amount of energy. And we're in what they call the purple zone, where the magnetic fields really are crazy. And plus we're on 2 ley lines as well. So it's like all the above is going on.
It's like a bunch of converging factors. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
What else they did too, the remote viewers, is when Ancient Aliens was here, which I got censored out of completely, but a ship came over, beautiful ship, and we got it on film, and then another light went over, and they remote viewed it. And the first ship that came over, they saw beings in gowns, like just beautiful beings, angelic beings on this ship. And that was those are the Pleiadians. And then they some had like gowns, and some were in uniform and things like that. And then the next one that flew over turned out to be a satellite, because we had a satellite tracker. They remote viewed that, and they said all we see is technology. We don't see anything. And so they verified it. And then I was talking about the feline beings are there, and they're human feline beings, and which pretty much where they got Avatar from. But they are guardians there. There's elven beings. There's 6-dimensional elven beings. It's a multidimensional thing going on there. But they're the feline beings are doing a lot of guarding work there, along with Bigfoot. There's a lot of Bigfoot here, and we have all the evidence of Bigfoot too. But it's an interdimensional thing. It's more than. It's not just a big dumb ape, that a lot of people are trying to say it is.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we had a question from the Sovereign Cosmic Wildman. He said, Rob and Coley, I'm asking about the female Sasquatch encounter James had. So they were asking about.
Oh yeah, I was up in the Snoqualmie Mountains up there, and I had a campfire going, and I was getting ready to cook some dinner. And I had a pan in my hand, and all of a sudden this light comes out of the forest out of nowhere. And it's this really bright ball of energy. and it was going between white and orange, and it came right at me, and I went, holy crap, and I picked up the pan to block it, which is probably highly overrated, as a protection, frying pan. I don't know, maybe it is. It went around me, and it went down around the cars, and it went down this trail. And so I go, that was bizarre, I don't know what that was. And then I heard it moaning. It was moaning and really kind of morbid sounding. And I go, something's down there, and it sounds like it's hurt or something. And I've lived in almost every terrain. I've spent a lot of time in the forest. I know what mountain lions sound like, bears sound like, everything. Even when they're mating, they sound like a woman screaming sometimes. But this is totally different. It's totally different than anything I've ever heard. And right away in my mind, I got Bigfoot. That's Bigfoot's down there. And then then I dismissed it. Your intellect jumps in and goes, that's crazy thinking. And then I kept hearing it. And I was with some other people. I go, I'm going to go check it out. And they go, no. And they're all like in the car with the doors locked. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go check it out. Leave this door open. You can have your finger on the lock. I said, if I come running out of there and jump in, and leave this one back door open, just watch. And I went down there, and so I walked down there, and I come right around this little bend, and it's all sandy wash. It's a lake. I'm not going to say where it was, because I don't want people looking for them. They want to leave them alone, but it was a lake. And then and the lake was to the right of me, and there's a big sandy wash, and it was sitting on a log. And I walked right up to it, and I go, oh crap, it's like right there, 50 feet away. And it's looking at me, and I'm looking at it, and I put my hands out. I'm just going, hey, it's like, are you all right? I'm not armed, can I help you? And it was a female, and then she stood up and looked at me, and she kind of gave a smirk smile, kind of like, thanks, but no thanks, like, we don't trust humans, which I don't blame them. And then she turned and walked right in front of me, and I could see her face, her breasts, everything. I could tell it was a female. And then she just vanished. She was walking, and she didn't get to the forest yet, and she just vanished and disappeared. And so I go, well, that was interesting. I guess they're interdimensional. They can jump dimensions or something. And then so Tom Dongo, who was living with me in Santa Cruz at the time, was a remote viewer. And I didn't say anything to him, and he was remote viewing it. And he said, and I said, hey, Tom, you never believe what happened to us out there. And he goes, Bigfoot. And he's smiling. And I go, oh, and how do you know this, And then I go, there's no way you could have known, because we didn't have cell phones or anything at the time. And so he goes, it was a female. And I go, bam, two hits right there. There's no way he could have gotten a Bigfoot, which is out of the blue, and then a female. And he said she was really upset. And there's three hits, she was really upset about something. And then he said she lost her daughter. She couldn't find her daughter, and her daughter got separated. And I said, can you remote view the daughter? And he said, she's with the others. And so there's a whole clan up there. And so they got back together, but that was my first encounter with Bigfoot. I've had like 9 or 10 after that. I've seen, so many, but it did phase out. They can phase out right in front of you if they want to. And we have tracks that are like a size 36 tracks. I think I sent you a picture of that. We were tracking one of them here. We got some prints and everything, and a friend of mine was tracking one just right above the ranch, and it was, that thing had to be like 10 or 12 feet tall. It was, the footprint was a size 36. He had a size 11. It was 3 times bigger than his shoe. So
Wow.
and so he started tracking it, and then he goes, what if I find it? He goes, well, what am I going to do? Something this big. And then he backed out of there and got in his car and left. He goes, I was by myself. And it's just like, and I would, if I saw a print that big, I'd just kind of go same thing. I go, well, you have a nice day. I'd pull a couple apples out and set them on a log or something, and say, and out of there. But I have run into some big males, and when they want you out of there, they'll let you know. They'll start stomping, they'll break branches, and they hit you with this, oh God, it's like a psychic energy. Like you feel it, like get out. All the hair on your arms stand up, and when they want you out of their area. So I've learned to be respectful. You know, if you really want to go after Bigfoot, you need to go out in the forest, take a flute with you, meditate, take offerings, and it needs to be a spiritual experience. The ego experience, you're never gonna find it that way. Even with technology, you know, we have thermal and we have night vision, all that stuff. And if it doesn't want to be seen, you're not going to see it, you know, or you might see it from a distance, and then that's it. I mean, they can run 40 miles an hour full speed through the forest, without a thick forest, with no effort whatsoever, or just phase out, you know. So
Speaking of phasing out, that for anybody who hasn't seen the picture of James before, I'm just going to pull it up one more time because if I'm so fascinated by this picture. So is this kind of the interdimensional beings? This is James, and for those of you who don't know the story, you're in front of the international
UFO
conference.
Congress.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then you're phasing in between. Like, is this kind of what happens with interdimensional beings also that you're
We
talking
can do
about?
the same thing. Yogis and lamas can do that. They can bilocate. They can be seen 2 or 3 places at once, and it just comes with enlightenment or the practices. But it's not that, believe it or not, it's not that hard to do. We do it. Happens here to a lot of people all the time. But the the thing about what's really weird there is that I had one of the biggest rushes after the talk. They burn the CDs and sell them, and I had one of the biggest rushes at the counter to get the DVD. They go, "We've never seen anything like this." Got a standing ovation, everything else, and then I was uninvited when I went to the booth where they sell everything. They go, "God, this is the biggest rush we've ever had." And everybody loved it, you know, and everything else. And then I got uninvited. I was invited there, and then I got uninvited by the guy running it now. So it's a good old boys club there, and it's just like Carlin said, you know, it's a club and you're not in it. If you're authentic, you're not in the club, and there's a lot of jealousy and a lot of competition, a lot of backstabbing in the UFO community, unfortunately, and that's why we don't have disclosure or contact. And the government's, you know, 70 years, and we have a fuzzy tic-tac after 70 years of disclosure. So, you know, Einstein says that's a form of insanity to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result. So we got to kind of forget that. That's a limited hangout. And if anything, you're going to hear about nuts and bolts. You're not going to hear about the big picture, the multidimensional aspect of it, or the spiritually and technologically advanced beings that really want to help. I mean, they're coming here to help, but you know, it's an extreme disservice to keep this controlled narrative going. And, you know, the people are getting, you know, they're going anti-government this, and they have their hand in back getting a check, some like $30,000 a month, you know. So I know because they offered me that deal and I said no. But it's really sad.
One of the things we were going to talk about today, James, was galactic clearings or clearings in general. You know, it seems to be like right now in our not just the community, but the world, people are overrun by like entities and entity attachments and stuff like that. And Nicole told me you're able to do some pretty amazing clearings. Like she even told me I should get one from you, you know, because I had an issue with an entity attachment, you know, for like 2 months. And I still feel like I'm feeling like the remnants of it. So like here and there, but for the most part, it's gone. But I wanted to ask you about that and how you started getting into that. Is it just kind of with like your spiritual development over time and stuff like that, or?
Well, yeah, it's the more light you generate, the more moths come to the flame, and the more powerful you become, or the higher up in frequency, the more the lower frequencies try to tear you down or mess with you. It's kind of just comes with the territory. And when I had the near-death experience, I was wide open, and I'd go into a restaurant. It was like a Mexican restaurant bar type of thing, and I'd see all these beings hanging there, trying to get their alcoholic fix vicariously through others. And that's the monkey on the back, you know. And so a lot of people, and so they keep saying, oh no, take another one, you know, and people don't realize there is a monkey on your back. And I saw a lot of the negative entities, but I also saw the benevolent ones at the same time. I saw both. And so the negative ones, when they know you see them, they come after you. And so you have to learn how to heal unseen negative influences. So I went through the TIC, the Teachings of Inner Christ, and I went through the inner sensitivity training, the self-mastery training, and all of that. And they teach that there. And the Tibetans, the lamas, and the yogis, I learned practices there too on how to shield yourself and heal unseen negative influences. And a lot of people are doing aspects of that. You know, when you sage the room and say a prayer and salt the perimeter and things like that. Those are all, it's mainly intent. So I tell people it's a power tool. You got to plug it in. So you plug it into the higher dimensional beings, the masters, and then your intent is followed through by setting the intent. And when you're doing the sage and you're doing the clearing work, and it's on our website, the technique is on our website. It's under Healing Negative Influences. And it's in all my books and everything. It's a very simple little prayer, and that you do. And again, when you do this prayer, it's a power tool. You got to plug it in, you know. And the other beings are like cheerleaders. They're going, do it, you know, like make the call, you know, ask, we can come. You know, they don't. You know, we have to initiate things. We especially with contact, is as a people, we need to initiate contact with the benevolent, the spiritually and technically advanced beings, because in their guidelines they usually won't come in. They'll assist from a distance, but unless we initiate it, you know, they don't want to trespass at all or create any kind of fear or anything else. So, but there are ones that are trespassing, and there are ones that are faker spirits and grays and reptilians and things like that, astral beings, you name it. There's a whole host of them that do trespass and mess with people, and they're very easy to clear out and move out.
That's like some really good points. And two, it's so important with all of the stuff that's going on to stay clear. So you're saying on your website, if you go to eceti.org, that's some that's on there where people like the prayer
it was, I think it's under healing prayer or healing unseen negative influences or something like that. It's on there. It's one of the things, but and it's in all my books. So I have 5 best-selling books that I've written, and I put it in every one of them because it's so important right now. You know, because again, just because you're dead doesn't mean you're enlightened, and just because you're an ET doesn't mean you're benevolent. You know, there are a lot of people in the UFO community that have no idea. They have no training. They have no idea what they're working with. And that's why their messages are all over the place, because one day they might be talking to a master or a Pleiadian, and the next day they might be talking to a gray or a reptilian or something, you know. But
that's a really good point too. And for those of you who don't, I was telling Rob about it, but I don't think I've gotten a chance to tell the audience that when you went in and I was asking you about a clearing and you had gone in, I was riding back with my son, and I just started like going through all of this old history that I thought I had released and gotten rid of. And then James give me a call. So I went and gave him a call, and I was like, hey, and you were just hit. I've never had a reading that was so profoundly like to it. And you're like, do you see that? And it was just like, it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal what you were able to do. I was just so taken back by it all. I was even telling Rob about it.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual roto-rooter, and it gets rid of past life trauma, it gets rid of childhood trauma, and it rehooks you up with your benevolent lives that were really positive, off-world civilizations, things like that. And it's like a quantum leap in spirituality when people do this. And we've been doing it for so long now. It's just we watch people all the time. They go, God, you just nailed everything. And now I understand what happened to me. Even as everything, I understand what was behind it. And the past life stuff, when you find out, you go, okay, that makes sense. That's why. And a lot of us have had, we went through the Orion Wars and things like that. And we got pretty traumatized in that. And then they're still using that to hook into people's energy. And once you clear that, you're clearing that chink in your armor. You're getting back in touch with the higher frequencies and things. But it's pretty thorough. I've had people who teach psychology and professors and things like that do it. And they usually come and say, you can't do that. That takes years and years of therapy. And I said, it takes me about 30 minutes, and then we can't do that. And I go, well, you can't really make a statement like that unless you've experienced it. And they'll sit in the chair, and then, 2 minutes later, they're just crying like a baby, or, they're processing some huge trauma, and then they reconnect and boom, it's done, but we can do all this stuff very quickly and gracefully, or we can take the long haul, but the thing about it, it's not optional anymore, because the whole earth is raising its frequency and ascending. And so all of that, all the old wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experiences coming up right now. And a lot of people are blaming and projecting, and they don't even realize what happened and the core issue of what's happening. And it's sad watching that. It's like the Muggle world, they're all competing and fighting and angry and splitting up, and they don't know why they're so upset about things. It doesn't make any sense, because they haven't done their shadow work. They haven't cleared the other stuff out. And there's a lot of people in both the spiritual field and ufology as well that haven't done their shadow work as well. And you can see it. It comes up to bite them later. They didn't get the love and acceptance or attention as a kid. So now they're trying to get it from the masses, and you shouldn't go in there with that. That's the wrong way to go into this, because you can easily get hijacked, if you didn't do your shadow work.
I got a question, another one. Am I unmuted? Oh, yeah, I was muted. Sorry. I had a question. People say that a lot of us are active in our astral time as well. Like, and they say there's other creatures in the astral and stuff like that. Do you think we could have an encounter in the astral and bring stuff back with us, back to the 3D? Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible, and it's pretty much happening on a big scale right now, because, you'll wake up in the morning and you go, God, I'm tired. I'm wiped out. What the heck? Because you're working all night, and you're working in these other levels and things, and then stuff. And the energies around that will come back into this life, and you wake up and you're all drained. You go, God, I just got hammered. Like, what is going on here? This doesn't make sense. And if you stop and sit and meditate and ask, say, can I clear out all residual energies from last night's work and put me back in touch with my own energies, close my aura to all but my own Christ and I himself, or whatever. And just spend like 5 minutes, all that goes away. But a lot of us carry it throughout the day, and we realize we could have just cleared it. We don't have to. You don't have to wake up in a bad mood or all bummed out or achy and everything. You can actually clear it, and it happens very quickly and gracefully when they do clear it. There's a lot of stuff in the astral level. People go, I'm astral projecting, and I go, it's not a good idea. You really want to go in your etheric body, which is the next level up, and that's where all the beautiful beings and the other stuff are. In the astral level, in the lower astral level, it's the lower fourth dimension, and that's where you have a lot of astral beings, discarnate, nasty people in there. You have creatures, you've got grays, reptilians, all kinds of demonic type things in the lower astral level. In the mid astral level, you have everyday people going about, getting ready for their next incarnation. And in the higher astral level, you have teachers and guides and masters, which a lot of people are working with. A lot of psychics are working with them. But you have to pierce the psychic barrier and get beyond that into the fifth dimension. And that's when you're really working with the higher dimensional beings. And there's a lot of people that haven't been trained, so they're working in the astral level. And the guides and teachers on the higher astral level, they have some kind of a religious program or a cultural program or something that doesn't allow them to get into unity consciousness. They haven't transcended, all the culture and religious diversities and things. And so they're stuck. And until they do that, they're not going to get off the wheel. They're going to have to keep reincarnating. But you have to transcend all of that and, make your own personal connection with Creator, and then you're off the wheel.
I have one more question and this one's about energy work. I've heard that, like, also if you're receiving energy work, or anybody, not me, or I'm just mean like anybody in general, like if we're receiving energy work from someone and it's not done properly, they say, there's some people say that like energy work can open up portals. So they say when someone's doing energy work on you, they should close that portal after they're done. Otherwise, that can open up the field for entity attachments too. Do you think that's a falsity, or is that a truth?
No, it is true. And again, it's not, a lot of people just in ignorance are doing things like that, and they don't realize what they're working with. And there is power that comes through them and things like that, but then there's a price to pay for that. And so you got to really make sure who you're working with, who's coming through you, what your come from is, when you're doing this kind of work. And with me, I just, very, very few people I will let do energy work on me, or even body work. They have to be at a certain frequency. But before even they do body work, I'll do clearings, and I'll call in like the House of Mary, the Divine Feminine, or something to help, because I've got some major challenges. Like I'm not even supposed to walk. I was supposed to be crippled. I blew out L4 and 5, and they said I'd never walk again. I refused to get the operations, but I healed it myself. And but it still talks to me. And so if I don't do regular stretching or yoga, or find some way to get, through deep tissue work or something to get that loosened up again, it's like pretty soon I'm like stove up, and I can't keep going. But like I work from sun up till sundown, even late into the evening, and very few people can keep up with me now, the way. But there's another force coming through me and I love what I'm doing. So it's not work to me. It's like, I wish I could do more actually, but my spirit keeps writing checks my body can't cash, so I'm having to chill out a little bit lately and not try to save the whole planet.
You really are. You do a lot. I mean, you're always, it's just like, I'm just so, I mean, I'm so fortunate that I have that line of communication with you, but you have your hands, and you do, how do you do and keep that all in yourself? Like you said, with the medical things and stuff going on, I mean, how do you keep rejuvenating that energy?
I think, well, I have a regular practice of meditation. I'm always clearing unseen negative influences and doing counseling work for people and things like that. That keeps the energy up. And I also really pay attention to my body. Like I eat really close to the earth and get away from all the processed foods. And I drink like oxygenated water. That there's a scientist that created this super oxygenated water. It's actually crystallized oxygen in the water, and oxygen is the highest systemic antibiotic you can get. So it's called Langenberg water if you want to check it out. But it's like prana in a bottle. But I do a lot of things to keep my health up and keep my energy going. And there's a lot of things you can do. And right now it's like, between all the toxins in the water and the air and the food and the chemtrails and the we're having all that war declared on humanity right now. And so you have to pay attention. You have to realize, okay, I can't eat that. I can't eat a lot of that fast food. I can't eat this. I can't. The water, I got to make sure where it's coming from. We have deep wells here for our water, and the water is really pure. It's full of minerals. It's like, and also eliminate the stress. Stress is a real killer. And I have some friends that they're very incredible healers, herbalists and things like that. And they're always mixing teas and things like that up.
Yeah. What is the Langenberg water? I never heard of that. I'm really into like real, like pure water. And but like, that sounds really interesting. It seems like it could be really beneficial to us.
Yeah, I have a bottle right here, but it's what it is. It's a microhydrant, and so it's a smaller water molecule, and they actually crystallize oxygen, which breaks all the laws of physics, and it's suspended in the microhydrant. And so when you drink it, it hydrates the body like immediately. It goes into your system. You don't get that lead rock in your belly when you drink a lot of water, and the oxygen totally nails any viruses or bacteria, even pollutants. It breaks them from a complex structure back into a crystalline form. And so, but it's amazing. We really need to get this out. I volunteered for like 7 years to help get this going, with the German physicists. But there's a lot of things that are going to be coming out now like this, a lot of healing technologies that can turn this around. But the main thing is we got to be observant and don't put all this crap in our system. But like, how do you get away from chemtrails? Everybody goes, I eat organic. There isn't no organic anymore, as long as those are going.
Yeah. It's sad to say, but you're absolutely right. It's like they're hitting us every which way they can. It's like a full scale targeting, and I started to think, is it like are we being terraformed by some reptilian species, or someone's proposed that before? Like, do you think it could be that bad, or do you think it's just more dirty humans, or is it both?
Well, there are beings out there that hate humans. There's so much inhumanity on the planet right now because of non-human interference. And it's infiltrated some of the highest levels of power, governments and institutions. And that's being cleaned out right now. The puppet masters are being taken out, and now we got to clean up the puppets. We're at the puppet level. And so, and people will do anything for money. I mean, if you get $100,000 to fly a plane and dump a big toxic soup on people, you're going to do it. And you're going to come home to your family and go, hi kids, kiss the wife, and say, yeah, I made $100,000 today. But you're actually, shortening your lifespan and you're creating karma. There's no such thing. Like, ill-gotten gain is going to have a karmic consequence to it. You're going to lose whatever you made, and you can't keep it. That's just a universal law. But these people don't believe in that. But I mean, to go ahead, and I don't see how do you come home to your family after that and your neighbors, and saying, I just dumped, aluminum, barium, nanoparticles, you name it, all these accumulative things on people, and it's a slow kill. Unfortunately, that's what it is. But it's population reduction. There's no other. And the same thing, it's the geoengineering. It's what's creating all the big floods and hurricanes jumping, across states and things like that. It's like, that doesn't happen. That's engineered, along with HARP and stuff. So the weather wars are going on, but they're being busted now. They're being caught. And there's a lot of white hats, that are calling this out and passing legislation. I don't know how many, I think there's at least 7 states that have passed legislation against it. And there's bills in Congress right now trying to stop it. And all of these things, this big, I think her name's Ann Patricia Luna is the head of one of these things, and it's all coming out in there. Robert Kennedy's exposing all the toxins in the food and the water. And so they're all being exposed right now, and it's just a matter of time before they're held accountable.
Yeah.
They definitely need to be accountable. That's definitely needs to happen.
Yeah, the whole deep state is going down right now. It's all being exposed, and they're going on the mainstream news and trying to play victim and everything else, and everything that is happening to them is because they did it to others. It's just the karmic backlash, basically. So we're in that the great reveal right now, where everything's being revealed, and the next stage is accountability, and everybody's going to be held accountable, and eventually we're going to go back to universal law, and we're going to unite as a planet. as a planet, and then we're going to have contact. But we have to agree to universal law to unite as a planet and accept the help of these higher dimensional beings, and then we're going to take a quantum leap. Then you're not going to have kids dying in hospitals of cancer and all these other people without arms and legs. All that can be healed. We have the technology to do that. And that's the thing that bothers me. It's like, how can you have medbed technology and walk through a children's cancer ward? And that's inhuman, basically.
Yeah, I agree.
How do you leave veterans, just sick and all kinds of chemicals in them and missing legs and arms? Why? How can you do that when you have the technology to fix it? And we do have the technology. It's just in the wrong hands.
Yeah. Do you think that's a lot of the stuff we see that like we hear about from the secret space program stuff, like the med beds and stuff like that, and
Yeah, exactly. The only reason the med beds haven't come out is because of big pharma, basically.
Yeah.
Same why we don't have contact with spiritually and technologically advanced beings, because they have healing technologies that are magical, basically, and they have fearless energy, anti-gravity and counter-gravity. What's that going to do to the oil industry and everything else? And they transcended war and disease, all this stuff, and poverty, it's like, and they can help us do the same thing. But there are the war and disease profiteers and the tyrants who want to keep everybody enslaved through dependency. And that whole group is folding in on itself. It's like the Hopi prophecy, where they have that we're coming at a crossroads where we have a choice. Where are we going to live a spiritual life in harmony with each other in nature, or are we going to go technology, try to control and dominate? And that negative path is a downward spiral, and it collapses and comes to an end. And the other one ascends and goes up. So we're in that phase right now where humanity's having to make a choice. Am I going to focus on love and joy and bliss and service to others, heal and restore the planet, take this quantum leap in technology, join the rest of the universe in peace, or am I going to keep doing this competition division game, and that's the choices we have right now. And we can, free will, I call it divine right to stupidity sometimes, because often people take the wrong choice, but there's no gain in creating harm to others and the earth. There's really, it's a short-term gain. You're going to lose it, basically.
That's an excellent point. I really, you can't even, gosh, I mean, it's just unbelievable, some of the stuff that is going on out there and people are buying into, such as, I don't know, we did have somebody ask about the atlas that is coming towards us. And can you really briefly explain, just real quickly, they're wanting to know if it's a threat or not, and I guess what advice you would give to people?
It's not a threat. Neither is the other one. There are no threats right now of incoming objects because, we're protected right now. The Pleiadians have pretty much taken control of that aspect of it, and they're the benevolent ones, and they're aligned with the councils. The Andromedan Council, the Orion Council of Light, the Syrian Council, Arcturian Council. All of those have all agreed that the Pleiadians are in control because they have more genetic stock in the earth. They created Atlantis and Lemuria, and both human and plant and animal stock because they're terraformers. So they're in control of that. And the other ones, anyone that would try to come here right now would just be obliterated, basically. It's not going to happen. But the ones that want to control through fear and everything else, they're going to push a narrative, like a alien invasion narrative. Sure. There's two invasions that happen. One was a long time ago, 450,000 years ago, with the reptilians and Marduk and Enlil and that pact that was made. And we've been dealing with that ever since, and that's all being cleaned up right now. And the second invasion was the incarnation of phenomenal beings that came from these higher dimensions and civilizations that have incarnated in the earth, and they can't stop that one. And their souls are being activated right now, and they're waking up and they're remembering. And that's where all the starseed and activate all these other things that are happening right now. There's in your soul, there's a fail-safe system that gets kicked back on. And when that kicks on, you can't be manipulated anymore. You see right through the nonsense,
So do you think some of us are just resistant to that type of programming, or is it like then all humanity are going to be, kind of snapped out of it at a certain point?
Yeah. It's like there's going to have to be a lot of healing, because a lot of things they've done shut down our natural way of experiencing the higher dimensions. So there has to be a lot of healing around that. But, a lot of people were just so socially engineered. They don't even know what they're doing. They don't even know who they are, why they're here, what their unique purpose is. They're just, they've been programming on who to hate, who to fear, and they're running that program. And they're going to snap out of it because that program's collapsing anyway. And all the division and deception is collapsing. So they'll have to snap out of it. And some are going to go harder than others. And some aren't going to make it. They're going to check themselves out. That's just, but it's not optional anymore. The two options we have is the upward or the downward spiral, and one's coming to an end, and the other one's going to continue to ascend, and the Earth's ascending. So there's no way out, basically.
Wow, that's so interesting. I'm trying to think of a question I had here. Should we take audience questions, Nicole?
Yeah, no, that's great. This one I thought was very, very interesting. Can beings outside the matrix interact with us?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are definitely. What's happening right now is the best way to explain it. If you take, not to go biblical, but there is a God, a creator, great spirit. There's the absolute. And then there's the little g gods under that, which are the Greek gods, Egyptian gods, the Norse gods, all that stuff. Those are the little g gods. And they did exist. And then there's the demigods, which we hear stories about. And what's happening is the benevolent ones are coming in, and they, from the source itself all the way down through the councils, the Andromedan Council, the Orion Council of Light, the Syrian Council, the Arcturian, all of that, Pleiadian councils, that energy is coming down through the councils, and then it goes into the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and then from there it goes into the Space Force, and then the White Hats, and that's what's in control. That's coming in right now, all the way up to the 13th dimension and beyond. So that's why I'm saying you can't stop this ascension process we're undergoing. And the other guys are squirming, they're kicking and screaming, and they're either taking themselves out or they're being taken out. The people that are aligned with the dark side, and it's kind of like people go, "What religion are you?" And I go, "Well, Star Trek and Star Wars were actually documentaries. There's a light force, there's a dark force, and there's people who choose which ones they serve, and some are self-serving, and some are in service to others, and some focus on love and joy and bliss, and others focus on control and domination. And that's just the way it is, in simplicity. And that's what's happening. And one path always ends in demise, basically. It's not sustainable. The other path is sustainable, and you continue to evolve. And that's basically what we're going through right now. And so all of these beings, even our DNA, we share DNA with them, and our DNA is always communicating. So we don't know where, a lot of our thoughts aren't ours. We don't know where it comes from. And so we're being influenced by benevolent beings, and we're also being influenced by unseen negative influences as well. at the same time. And because we live in this big field of consciousness and energy called the unified field, and some of it's positive and some of it's not, so we choose what we pull from, out of the unified field, basically.
That's a great point. Sorry, Rob, do you have one?
Sovereign Cosmic Wildman wanted to ask, he's in the audience, he wanted to ask you about ECETI Hawaii. Is it just as active as is the one in Mount Adams? And like, what prompted you to open ECETI Hawaii? It sounds so interesting.
I think I sent you some pictures of that. The ECETI Hawaii place has a huge light dome over it, and you can actually film it. I think I sent you those pictures, and we're having constant ships coming in there too. It's just like, wow. It's insane, really low, like treetop level. You see palm trees behind the ships coming in, and they come out of the ocean there too. There's a base out in the ocean off of our place, and they come in, they put on a whole show for us. And we've also had other beings come there. We've had masters appear there, and we've gotten photographs of them. And we got one photograph of the night marcher that showed up. And they are real. And the Menahunis, come around. But the activity there is crazy. I go out at night and I'll get like 20 or 30 ships, and really low. And the Hawaiian culture, it's, you ask them. You ask the elders there, where did we come from? And they point to the Pleiades. So they know, they're very aligned with the Pleiades, and they know what's going on. But in the one in Hawaii, it's just 7.5 acres, and it's a coffee plantation. And I have to go back, and we have just a bumper crop right now, and we don't have anybody to pick it because a lot of them got deported. But so we need some coffee pickers here pretty soon. But the problem is we only have like one bathroom, and it's a 1-bedroom house and 1 bathroom. So it's kind of primitive. And we've got to figure out the logistics on how we're going to make that happen. But a lot of people come, and we have showers, and they come in tents, and we can organize that. But it's a lot of work, it's a lot, but it's like a meditation when you're picking the coffee. It's like there's an old saying, weed your garden, weed your mind. And the beings are there, and they're downloading, and they're working with you. And a lot of people get healed and have huge insights and release things. They don't know why. They don't know how it happened, but it just happens.
I'm a coffeeaholic, I love coffee. I drink it all throughout the day. And when Nicole told me that you had the coffee thing, I got so excited. I was like, man, I got to try that. I'd love to. What kind of roast do you make? And like, is it a dark roast? Is it a light roast?
Yeah, it's a dark roast. It's the original Arabica, the ancient plants that we have. And we came and it was totally overgrown. We came and we cleared all the vines off of it and stumped it. And now it all grew back. And now it's like 9-12 foot tall coffee trees and just full. And we're having a bumper crop there. And I've never seen, there's a lot of energy goes into it. And, people are calling me like Juan Valdez out there. I've got my little hat on. I just need a burro. And, we go out there and pick the coffee, but energetically, I'm doing clearings the whole time while I'm picking the coffee and things like that. But, and we pick it, we pulp it ourselves, we dry it ourselves, and then we take it and have it roasted. And everybody that drinks the coffee said they've never tasted anything like it. It tastes like Hawaii. You don't get a headache. There's no bitterness to it. It's not cut. It's like the whole bean. And, it says on the thing, it's out of this world,
That's like, so cool.
Yeah. But it's not the same coffee, but we haven't put it online or anything. We've just been selling it, as people come to the ranch, we've been selling it there. But I've got to start marketing it because we're getting overrun with it. We're getting too much coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That really I said that really perked up the chat. They heard coffee, and it was I loved it. They said they're looking. James, I'll work there, said Amy. There's another. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Coffee is like tobacco. Tobacco, if you get a really good strain of tobacco, all natural, don't add anything to it. it has amazing healing tech, and there's a lot of research. I think it's Bruce Artis, I think his name, talks about that. It blocks the spike protein, does amazing stuff, but it has a lot of curative effects. And if you eat the cherry, because there's a cherry and then there's a bean inside the cherry. If you eat the cherry, it like totally knocks out Alzheimer's and all these things. It's amazing. And people don't realize that coffee has as long as you don't cut it. So let's say I was an Illuminati guy and I wanted to really mess up people. Well, everybody drinks coffee, so what am I going to do? I'm going to put all kinds of crap in it. Everybody smokes tobacco. I'm going to put all kinds of additives in that and things like that. But if you get a lot of these, it's plant medicine. If you get it, if you get the real stuff uncut, unaltered, close to the earth, it's good for you. It's like I don't have any vices other than coffee and bad jokes. I have bad.
That's okay. My jokes are bad too.
But I love the coffee.
That.
Yeah, I make coffee every morning. I have a nice cup of coffee, and people that drink it, there's gourmet people that drink and they go, "This tastes like Hawaii." They said, "I don't know what's in this. What do you do? How do you do that?" And I said, "It's from Hawaii." It's like, but we do everything just close to the earth. We don't cut it, don't add it. Don't just do everything as natural as possible.
Yeah, I've heard that about when you're saying about the nicotine though, or the tobacco. They say that nicotine can be it can have like a nootropic like effect. It can be like a neuroprotectant on the brain if you get like the right kind of nicotine, not like the bad stuff they sell us, right? Yeah,
definitely. Like Mark Twain, all those guys smoke pipes. All the great thinkers, you go back and you'll see them with a pipe. And because they know, that's when it opens the nicotinic acid, opens the mind, and it brings insight, it brings things. And so, but the bad effects are usually because of the additives or over abuse. Of anything, you can have adverse effects.
Yeah.
But I used to be really against nicotine and coffee, and I was like a purist for a while, and then I started realizing that a lot of that's just mind control stuff. They don't want you to keep yourself healthy or awake. They don't want those things to happen.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think Sovereign Cosmic Wildman had another question.
Yeah.
I can see if I can find it. He always has good questions. He says, could you tell us about the orbs strange lights pose as cars and homes around Mount Adams?
About what now? The orange lights or orbs?
He says, tell us about how orbs strange lights pose as cars and homes around Mount Adams, he said.
Oh, well, the mountain up there, there's no, where we film these, there's no roads. It's all wilderness area. And especially on the middle and left side of the mountain. On the right side of the mountain, there is a trail that people park way over on the right side of the mountain. They hike up this trail, and it's called South Climb. But what we're filming is full on the left side. There's no roads up there. You can't have any vehicle. There's nothing you can have. And the luminosity of the mountain's 13 miles away. So that light we showed earlier, that big gold light, that was 13 miles away. So you can imagine the luminosity and the candle power of that, of that light. That's 13 miles away. Wow. So what can create a light that big? Right there is exactly what it looks like from the ranch on the mountain in a wilderness area where there's no roads. It doesn't make, and we had guys come up. I keep brain farting on this guy's name. I need to write it down. I don't know why I keep forgetting it. Steven something, I can't remember his name, but he brought up like $150,000 worth of gear, and he had 2 different kinds of night vision, thermal, everything. This is all military grade stuff. And he did an investigation on it. And after he was done, he said, I have more questions than answers. He said, this light we're seeing is not from the earth. It's like starlight. It's cold light. There's no body attached to it, no person there. He goes, I don't know what it is, and it's moving intelligently all over the mountain. Doors are opening, lights are coming out of the mountain, going up into space. Everything there is no normal standard explanation for this other than it's either off-world or interdimensional. There's no other way to explain what's going on. And people go, well, that's ball lightning, and that's it's not. There's no lightning. It's like these things are intelligent. They don't. Ball lightning is just piezoelectric energy. It just bounces around on the ground and then fizzles out. It doesn't do what these do.
Yeah, it seems like someone might have, in the government or somewhere, might have created the term ball lightning. I mean, like not created it, but like used it as a way to knock real UFO sightings or something. Because we heard that a lot during the regional days and the Project Blue Book.
It's like one step up from the weather balloon. It's very, very rare, and it just doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, I said that you would hear that a lot when, during the Blue Book cases. I think J. Allen Hynek originally said that. He was trying to say that, a lot of UFO sightings were ball lightning, but then he came to his senses and he had a transformation where he actually started to believe in the phenomena after a while.
Yeah, he did research up here. He wrote about the lights on Mount Adams, and he said that they were random. He said they would pop out, they'd move all over the place. And every time they grabbed their cameras to film them, they disappear. And he said there was no logical explanation for these lights that they were seeing on the mountain, and they're huge orbs and they're flying and they're making turns and powering up and everything. So even he said there's no explanation for this.
Wow. It's amazing that you were able to find another place just like it in Hawaii too. I think that's amazing. It must be like you must have the Midas touch for ET contact or something.
It's kind of weird, because it's like what came first, the chicken or the egg story. But I was guided to these places, and it's just definitely. Extreme inner guidance to go to these places, and the ships were here. I mean, they were at those places, but not very often did you see them. And as soon as we go and start doing work there, all of a sudden they just show up everywhere, and there are just tons of them. So they seem to follow me wherever I go. But I think that place already had a history, and there's bases out in the ocean there. So it's kind of like a combination of things happening.
I got a question for you, James. Is there a way that people who live in places like me, I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or Nicole lives in Iowa, can we reach out to the beings and ask them to show themselves to us? And would it take some time? Do you think it's something that we could pull off? I mean, I know it's more probable if we would come to ECETI, right? But can we have our own CE5 kind of experience? I know I hear people doing it all the time in groups like CE5 groups, but can any random person kind of do it and reach out to the beings and try to get them to appear?
No, we have an exclusive on ETs and gods, but no, I'm just anybody can do it. Basically, there's a lot of people that they say it's all about them. I mean, some people came here and they said the ships wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. It's all about them and some top people in the ufology. I won't mention his name, but it's just unbelievable, the ego and the stuff around this. But they're attracted to consciousness, and as you're raising your frequency and putting the call out and initiating contact, they're going to come. And if you focus on love and joy and bliss and send it with the intention of having a contact and qualify it, just say we want to work with only benevolent, spiritually and technologically advanced beings that are here for the awakening healing process, be sure and qualify it. And it's a good idea to learn how to heal unseen negative influences. Do a little prayer before you start and set the intention and create sacred space. You can anywhere. I mean, they'll pick it up. They're telepathic. They know us better than we know ourselves, and they can just look at us and read us and know what, whether there's purposeful good in contacting or not. And but they're like cosmic cheerleaders. If you go out, and I always tell people, just go out and on your deck on a clear sky night and say a little prayer and look up and see what happens, because we did an intention experiment on Art Bell a long time ago. It was one of the first ones. And people saw so many ships and had very close and personal contacts, and that the lines shut down. They couldn't answer all the calls. Their emails blew up. It was such a success that they couldn't even field all the people that had sightings or had contacts. So if we start doing that, people can do that with this show. Like just go out and go out on a new moon. It's great when the moon isn't interfering. If you have clear skies, there's so much stuff flying around up there, and some of it's ours, some of it's our own space fleet and things like that, but a lot of it is not. And there are fleets of ships up there right now, just going in every direction. And you'll see Starlink coming by, and you'll see they're all perfectly spaced. And then all of a sudden you see this shoo coming through it and around it and everything else, so it's not Starlink. They're not satellites. And you just look at how they behave. And if you do it right, they're going to power up. They're going to fly over and they're going to go boom and power up and say hi.
Wow. I got to see that.
Yeah, it happens here every night. If it's clear skies, you're going to, like just this last week, it's been crazy. We've had, triple power ups, huge ships coming in, just crazy stuff going on.
I had one experience one time. Well, actually, when the crazy drone sighting stuff was going on, I filmed a drone, but I'm pretty sure it was a drone. But then 3 days after that, you remember they were saying a lot of people were seeing drones with orbs. I was walking, there's like a BP gas station right by my apartment here, like close to it. And I was walking, and I 300 feet above the BP was this like plasmoid shape-shifting orb type thing. It was like purple and green, and I was like blown away. I was like, holy smokes. So I tried to film it, of course, and it knocked out my phone, or it was like giving my phone complications. Like it was messing up the camera. And I was wondering why nobody on the road was like pulling over and like doing anything. Like it was like, but I've never saw a classic saucer UFO or anything like that. But that was the closest, I think what I saw was interdimensional or something like that, but I mean, I don't know,
All three were happening. There was our stuff there. There was Chinese stuff there. And then there was the ETs were there. And I think they're going to try to pull off some kind of a false invasion thing. And when the real ship showed up, they went, oh crap, we have to do something different here. And they actually took some of those drones and attacked some UFOs that were there, some benevolent ones, and they just fell right as soon as they tried to attack the other ones. They just fell out of the sky and hit the ground. So there's a combination of things happening there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I saw videos of orbs like taking out the drones at that time. I remember exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw one drone with a laser thing on top of it, and it was trying to shoot at a UFO, and it came in and it was going choo choo and started shooting, and then just all of a sudden you see a little flash and it just fell straight down. Didn't even affect the UFO. Didn't do anything.
Wow.
But
so what would you see? Rob's really never encountered like something, completely out of this world that he's been that close to. What are some, I know some of the techniques that I use to bring him in. What are some of like the CE5 or some of the protocols that you use in order to bring them down?
Well, some of the CE5 stuff is just mental, and it's a big, long protocol. It's too long. It's not that complicated. And also too, there were people using that technique to bring in grays and reptilians and things like that, which are not good. There's an app too that does that. And somebody came here and they brought the app, and I said, shut that off right away. And it gave me a headache, just being around it. But that really what you want to do is go out and just meditate and focus on love and joy and bliss, and then do that healing prayer. Like I do my own version of it. I kind of go, oh, cosmic birther, Father, Mother, God, come forth, And I said, if there's anybody out there, any spiritually and benevolent off-worlders that want to contact, make yourself known, and boom, the whole sky starts lighting up. There's stuff everywhere. And you can, even the healing prayer that we do, the healing technology, I've seen people totally butcher it and it still works. So it's intent is 9/10 of the law. And raise your frequencies, because these are very loving, joyous, very spiritually and technologically advanced beings. So when we can raise our frequency and put out a call, they're going to get it. They're going to come.
That's so true too. I guess I always, like, even in my head, like, you can shorten the CE5. It's none of that is. But then I also wonder too, how can people tell the difference so they're not bringing down the grays, or they're not bringing in negative entities?
Well, the mind in which you seek is the mind in which you connect.
Mm.
So if their mind is driven by ego and driven by see me, I'm special, and that kind of stuff, that's the kind of energies you connect with. And so it's like, that's why you have to get, really get into the heart, get humble, and put the call out there, and you'll see things. And I remember I had a woman here. I told that story before, but I had a woman here, and we're doing a sweat lodge with. I had some chiefs here actually. We're all doing a sweat lodge, and this one woman's going, "Hey, I want to see the ships. They've got to land. They better land, And then we did the sweat lodge, and then we came out, and I told her, I said, when you come out of the lodge, you're in an altered state, and you're ripe for contact. So just be ready. And this huge golden ship, like kind of goldest orange ship, started coming in, and she ran, and she was grabbing a tree and hanging onto it. So you think you're ready, but you really got to get rid of the fear. And we think we're ready until it happens, and then that fear kicks in, and they don't want to generate fear. They don't want to. But if you do connect with them, you feel this loving exchange that erases the fear. If you don't feel that, I always say, if you don't feel kind of some love and joy and bliss coming to you, if you're not excited, if you hear the people in the field here, they're all excited. They're all like, I love you. And they're all trying to connect. And that's what creates the connection. And you bring in the benevolent ones, the malevolent ones get the hell out of Dodge. They don't want to be around when the good ones are around. So that's how you deal. I always tell people, in the interest of national security, we need to align with the benevolent ones, because we're totally outgunned.
Their definitely.
It's so far beyond ours. And there are some negative ETs that have some technology far beyond what we have. So we really need to align with the benevolent ones. And luckily they're cleaning house, and they're helping us anyway, even though I guess enough have asked, and they have enough people that incarnated that are waking up, that are asking. So they're helping more and more. But the more people ask, and the more we raise our frequencies, the easier it is, the more help we're going to get.
Yeah, so if everybody's watching, we need to be reaching out, and we need to be asking. Is there a way that you think that, be careful what you ask for, is always what I say. Like, is there a way that, or something that people can say, or how often should you say it? I know that.
Well, that's on our site. It's on the website. And so you can go into the website and get the prayer there. It's under healing prayer, and it teaches you how to heal unseen negative influences and create sacred space. So I would definitely do that ahead of time, and then qualify, make your intent, qualify it. Like, I want to work with spiritually and technologically advanced beings that are here to assist in the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth, and qualify it. And it's pretty simple. Your intent is 9/10 of the law. So if you have an open mind, loving heart, pure intent, and you put it out there, you're going to experience the good ones,
Absolutely. Yeah. So I put the ECETI .org for anybody who's listening. If you're on the audio side and listening, I encourage you to go and check out James's work. it's impeccable. It really is. Start digging through. He did release video footage. It's out on all of his platforms as well. I encourage you to go and look at the pictures, go and look at the videos. Like you said, you can hear the people in the background. They're cheering, they're excited, they're happy. Like all of that is just absolutely amazing.
I think too is that we have to be brutally honest with ourselves and ask that question. Why has disclosure been a 70-year fail, and why do we only have a fuzzy tic tac? And
Yeah.
it's because it's a controlled narrative, and Hollywood side of it is just entertainment. They're not part of disclosure, and the government has their thing, and they're not even touching the tip of the iceberg. They don't want to deal with the spiritually and technologically advanced groups. They're way out of their league. And so it's sad that we're not, and that's what we've been doing. We've been giving our power weight to the controlled narrative and planned opposition and chills and this big F fest that's going on, and we have to step out of the box and try something different, like Einstein said, and then we're going to have contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. And
We're power the individual here. We don't have followings or anything else. Everything is designed to empower the individual to make their own personal connection with, God, Creator, Great Spirit, whatever you want to call that, and the benevolent beings that are, we call them the beautiful many, masters, saints, and sages, and off-worlders that are here to help. And so, people make their own connections and get on with their own unique purpose. And that's what we're focused on. We're not here for, I don't need to be famous. I'm more famous than I ever wanted to be. I'm kind of reclusive, basically. I like gardening. I like being in nature. And people go, you love to go to these big events. I said, no, I don't. I have to drag myself to them, so. And
you really are, though. You're one of the most, you send pictures of all the time of nature, of deers that are flocking around you. I mean, flocks of geese. I mean, the ducks. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just amazing to see.
And we hand feed the animals here. They have no fear, and they walk right up to you. And so it's kind of funny, except when the bear. We have a couple bears that come through now and then, but they've never ever harmed anybody or anything. They just go through and eat a few plums and apples and keep going, But
oh wow,
they sense the energy of the land. They're attracted to it, So whenever the farmers lose their cows or their livestock, they come to ECETI. They break out and they come to our ranch. And they go,
yeah, they're getting out of there. I don't blame them.
Your cows are over here, and they go, why do they come here all the time? Because they pick up the energy, and they come for healing, and they come for the interaction, basically.
And you got a beautiful dog, and somebody was asking before about animals and ET connections.
Yeah.
Real quickly, can you touch on that?
Yeah, that picture I showed you of my dog has two lasers coming out of his eyes going up to these orbs in space. And he was like an alien dog. I named him after an Andromedan, which was Jadar. There's a being named Alpha Jadar who's like a warrior type Andromedan, which are mythologically known as archangels, and he kind of lived up to his name. But he's not with us anymore. He crossed over.
Oh,
but,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the animals are very attuned here. They know what's going on.
And you're such a grounded person. You really are. I'm so fortunate that I get to hear. I mean, like every day, I get to get a piece of this. And two, if anybody wants these pictures, you go ahead and reach out, and I'll get them and put them up there, because James sends them, and it's a mound of evidence that you have. But you're such a grounded individual who's so in touch with like what's going on around them. How do you keep that sense? Because let's face it here, everybody in this community knows who you are. Everybody has heard, it's like, and I think they think that you're kind of untouchable to some. And I'm like, he's the most down to earth person I have met in a very long time.
I tell people, I burp and fart like everybody else. I tell bad jokes and everything else, and I keep it grounded. And the daytime, we're always cutting down dead trees here and getting firewood and working the fences, and we have livestock here, and and gardens, big gardens and things like that. And I'm really working close to the land. I have to, because if I don't stay grounded, I'll go off into la la land, which unfortunately a lot of people do. But you got to keep it grounded. The more grounded you are, the more energy you can bring through.
I agree. Because especially with your work, I mean, you're transitioning. If those of you who have not seen this picture, I'm going to pull it up one last time because I've sat here and I've stared at this picture I don't know how many times. Here's James at the International UFO Conference. Am I saying that? Did I say it right?
Yeah, International UFO
Congress, excuse me. Yes. So he is transitioning between himself and a light body. Would that be the correct terminology to use, James?
Yeah, shifting to my light body. I have other photographs where you see one body and the other body outside of it moving up, going out, and I'll send you those. I'll have to dig them up, but
wow,
I have all kinds of pictures where I'm phasing in and out all the time, and it's not just me. Other people are doing it on the ranch here because it is a vortex, and a lot of anomalies happen here. And sometimes I'm meditating. I'm on this hill we call it Lemurian Hill, and I'm sitting on the hill and I'm meditating, and like a coyote will come up, and they won't see me. And they'll walk right up to me and they kind of start sniffing and they're trying to figure out what's going on. And they'll be like 2 feet away from me. And I go, boo, like this. And they howl and jump straight up in the air and then look at me and growl. They don't see me till I say something. And that happens with other people too. I'll walk up to them. They don't even see me. And I go, how's it going? And they just jump out of their shoes, when it happens. But it's kind of like, I don't do it on purpose, but it's just something that happens, and it's not that hard to phase out. It's not as hard as people think to phase from one level to another. It's much easier than people think.
Well, usually people can't do it when they're on stage in front of an audience. I mean, it's like that right there is phenomenal. I mean,
when I'm on stage, I'm not even speaking. Even these shows, stuff's coming through me, but they're orchestrated on other levels. But I always tell people like the Native Americans say, you have to become like a hollow bone and just let spirit flow through you. And the more you can do that, and I spent my entire life trying to be nothing, not trying to be something, because out of the nothing comes everything, and you're connected to everything. But so many people are trying to be something, create a name and become famous and everything else. And it's actually the opposite.
Wow. That's so true too. That's so true.
Yeah.
So
it's an
I guess
too, because, only the ego needs defending, and you're going to get chewed up and spit out in this field. That's what they do. And so you just smile and you say, I'll see you in your light review, have fun with that. You're going to hurt yourself. And they can say whatever they want, throw whatever dirt they want. It doesn't matter, because I know who I am. I know what I'm working with. And they will. There's a lot of jealousy and competition, and it shouldn't be there. We should all be working together. And, it's really weird. I train people on how to do this. I give them the tools and techniques. And I said, here's the footage. You can take the footage and run with it, And instead of doing that, they don't. I don't know. I've never seen anything like it.
Me either.
They end up turning on you and trying to. But that is kind of, when they go into spiritual ego and then they go into narcissism, it's over. You can't reach them anymore. And then they just have to go out and have their experience and, let the universe teach them.
What do you say? I'll see you at the review.
Yeah, I'll see you in your light review.
Light review. That's a good one. I'm going to use that. Because they do. This community goes wonka, like crazy bonkers. I mean, It's unbelievable.
To me, it's like when these guys, when I had Corey Good speak at the ranch, I had everybody attacking me, and they go, "You're never going to speak again. You're never going to do anything again." It was unbelievable. I go, "You got to be kidding me." And so I just documented everything that they were saying. And they said, "We're going to destroy your character and your," and so I documented it all. And then I put it out. I released it. I said, "Look, this is what these guys are saying." And I'm totally transparent, and I don't have anything to defend, and all the stuff they came up with, some of it was impossible. And it was so ridiculous. It was like they're saying I was the head of a Russian bestiality group, which I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is. And that's how far it went.
Oh, it's so
You know,
true
like,
too.
I'm
Oh
gay, I'm
God.
a womanizer, and I go, you guys got to pick one. You can't. And they do everything to assassinate your character. And if they can't do that, then they will actually physically try to assassinate, which has happened several times. But I've always had protection. But it's really sad that this is going on, and you're never going to have disclosure with the spiritually and technologically advanced beings that are really going to help us take this quantum leap in consciousness and restore the planet and bring in the fearless energy, the healing technologies. It's not going to happen while this exists. And people don't realize that they're a detriment to disclosure when they engage in this kind of energy, in the competition and all the other nonsense. They're not, no self-respecting advanced ET is going to have anything to do with that.
That's true.
Basically. And every year they go, we're going to have contact. The ships are going to show up. Every year the conferences say all this stuff. They're going to come down. They're going to walk among us. And every once in a while they do, but you'll never see them. You'll never know who they are, and they're not going to make themselves known. Contact in the desert, we had MUFON counted 85 ships when we did an intention experiment to bring them in, which are very nuts and bolts people. And another guy batted zero there that was the top of the food chain, as far as C5 stuff, and he batted zero because the benevolent ones came in and cleared out. They cleared out the space. But that's that whole other, it's collapsing. That whole other program is collapsing in on itself. And so I love this master teacher I studied with. He said, everything comes from one point and it expands out and it all comes back to the same point. And he said, be the point, and
I like that.
Yeah. And he said, don't go and try to make it happen or everything else. Just be true to yourself. Just let the information go through you. Be true to yourself, be the point. And don't worry, it's all going to come back. They'll all try to distract and derail and everything. And it's all going to come back to being authentic. Who's authentic, who's not. Who's the point, basically.
I like that. I do. That's great. That's excellent. I guess in closing, we've kept you, Rob. Do you have anything from your side that you wanted to?
No, just say thank you. This was amazing. I thought this went great. We had a good turnout. A lot of people showed up, and I think the audience really enjoyed it a lot. So thank you, James.
Yes, James. Thank you so much. But can you, before we even let you go here, can you tell everybody where they can find you at and the best way?
Yeah, we do have an ambassador training, self-mastery training this weekend, actually. And there's still openings there. It's kind of late notice, but there's still openings for that. And if you go to ECETI.org and just click on events, and you can find it, what's happening there. And there, people, it's life-changing for people. You're going to be totally validated in your beliefs when you come here, because you're going to see the ships, you're going to experience the beings, and you're going to walk away with tools, on how to clear unseen negative influences and how to create sacred space and things. Yeah. And then get the books too. The books are really powerful. There's five different books, and they talk about all my experiences with the different beings, what I learned from them, and one's Reunion with Source. It talks about the near-death experiences, and the other one's Becoming Gods and the Ultimate Soul Journey. And then there's Anunnaki Return and UFOs, The Origin of Man and Religion is the last book I wrote, because there's so much misinformation out there. I thought that would clear things up, but they're getting out there. They're flying out the door right now.
Wow. And then you have your show on Rumble.
Yeah, my show. I'm in the chat on Rumble during my show, and so I'm in there, and I'm actually telling bad dad jokes and joking around in there. So
I think they're hilarious, but yeah.
I figure But we have the show, and then and it's on BBS Radio, on As You Wish Talk Radio, which is huge. It goes out on iHeart to 150 countries, and then we have it goes out on X, it goes out on Telegram, it goes out on Rumble, and a few other venues. So it's really getting out there. It goes out to millions basically eventually. So
That's
so
amazing.
it's getting out there. But the last show was, I think we have to reload it. It got hammered so much that it plays a little bit, stops, and then it deletes, and then I've never seen anything. I don't know how they do it, but I'm sure we have our own little task force designed to
Oh, I bet you do.
sabotage, this information.
I bet
Is
you
your
do.
Rumble channel ECETI Stargate official, James, so people know, so they can look it up and subscribe to you?
Yeah, ECETI Stargate on Rumble. It'll pop in and say official, and go into there. And there are some people, fakers, that are creating Facebook pages and Telegram pages that are trying to act like me and sell you stuff. And we don't do that. We
I
don't
wanted
sell
to tell you
product.
that someone contacted me the other day and pretended to be you. I'll report the profile. I'm pretty sure it was a fake. Yeah.
Yeah, let me know when that happens. Like, text me or something and tell me where it is, and I'll send our producer after it. But yeah, these guys are just unbelievable. They're posing. They're always trying to sell some kind of Bitcoin or something on the site. And last person was selling oils. I don't know, some kind of oils.
Oh man.
And just, if somebody's trying to sell you something and posing as me, just turn them in, because we're not selling anything. You can go to our website and everything's there. The books are there. All the stuff is there. But we don't push, Bitcoin or any of these other programs, wallets, and all this other stuff people are doing. We don't do that.
Yeah, within a matter of seconds, Myra's really good about it, hopping on there and doing it too. But within a matter of seconds, I saw one of your accounts and one of Peter's accounts back to back pop up, and I was like, oh my gosh, they don't stop.
Yeah, that's how they mess with you. They try to muddy the waters, and they do it. They're tricky. They do everything they can to shut it down, but it doesn't matter because they're only digging their own grave, basically.
Yeah, eventually. So yeah, if anyone's out there, there's James's accounts, like the ones that are official, ECETI ones, and all of those. But the other ones, yeah, they are definitely everybody's trying to market or profit out there. It just seems like, but
yeah, it's sad. It's sad because and we do help a lot of people. We share all of our footage and latest footage, everything with people. It's like we don't charge them or anything, and so people have the right. If you have an open mind, loving heart, pure intent, we help people, get going. And unfortunately, there are some major people, even radio shows out there, that have done quite a lot of backstabbing, and so we had to break off with them. So we don't sponsor them anymore. We just said, no, sorry,
That's what I like about you too, is that you don't take the deals like that.
Yeah. It's got to be impeccable integrity, or we don't do it. And there's not much of that left.
No.
People operating from that level, but we always tell people, it's like, there's a lot of integrity and morally challenged people out there in the field, unfortunately. And some of the stuff they're doing, I mean, it involves kids, and people don't realize how much that's infiltrated. And so that's all going to come out. These guys are going to disappear.
Yeah, and everybody's saying, "Hey, thank you, James. I love you, James." I mean, you have this is an amazing opportunity for everybody. If you haven't seen, James has also released. I'll get that over to you too, Rob. Like the pictures, the videos. There's a mound of evidence, and I encourage you to go to the source, Mr. James, and his accounts, and that we've listed too. In if you look into the description and all of this, and go and see it for yourself.
And we just put together a compilation of the past 2 weeks, and we'll send you that too. It's amazing. It's just like, holy smokes, when you see it.
Yeah,
it's not,
and the excitement.
Yeah.
The cheering, I just love it because you can tell it's like in the background you hear people like, yay, oh, like I was like, oh man, did we miss out? But again,
I'm just reminding people of what they already know. I'm just a reflection, basically, and unfortunately, the world reflects a whole different picture back to them. So when they see this and hear this, it's just igniting their own inner knowingness in their own soul. So it's like, what you see in me is in you, basically.
Well, I like the reflection then. I mean, this is great. But yes. So thank you again, James. We'll definitely be in touch soon. And yeah, so we thank you again for your time, and we'll get all that information out there for everybody. I encourage you to go over, follow James, go to ECETI, ECETI.org. You can check it out if you're going to be in the area in Washington area during the ranch. I mean, go and get some of this training done. Rob and I are dying here over here, and it's like, if you can get there, go there.
Definitely.
Man. Yes. So thanks
All
again,
right.
James. Yes.
Thanks,
Oh,
James.
isn't he like just wonderful, Rob? I tell you, I just absolutely just
Yeah.
value this time. It's just amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, this was good. We had I mean, I didn't really promote it that much because because we had the time mess up, right? But like,
Yeah.
still with that, we still had like 50 or 60 people watching on YouTube, on my YouTube, and then I had like 30 or 40 watching on Rumble. So like 100 people, and I know you get a lot on your Twitter and stuff. Like,
Yeah, we're up
so-
about I think our 235 is what I see across on Twitter. So that's amazing in itself. So I mean, there's about like I guess grouping together, we got about close to 500 people watching and getting this message out. So that's amazing. That is
Yeah, and I
amazing.
just got a really nice comment on Rumble from Ralph Branzier. He says, "I love this show and I love James." So I think people like the collabs we're doing, which is good. That's what
Yeah.
the goal is. I'm glad we did this.
Yeah, and we
We were
can
both
stretch
having a bad day
across.
at first.
So me too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we were both having a bad day at first, and then we just
That's
decided to
so
do it.
true. But yeah. Oh man. Sometimes you get into this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm so
you
glad
cut
we
out.
did.
Yeah, I am too.
You're right about that. I'm so glad we did. I don't know why I'm freezing up a little bit, but I saw that. So, yeah, in closing, Rob and I, we got some. Am I cutting out?
You're good. You're good now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you're
we
good.
have some exciting stuff, I guess, before we completely phase out ourselves, because I can see a delay like right in front of me. So we'll go ahead and we'll call it a show.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect. So yeah, so I guess thank you for taking the journey into the unknown with SNX Radio.
Thanks, guys. See you guys. Good night.
Also, yes, and we will be updating very soon. We got some fun and exciting stuff. So with that, I guess we are out of here. So yeah, until then, enjoy your weekend. Stay safe out there, everybody, and we'll be seeing you very soon. So good night. If I'm totally stuck here. Okay, we're ending. Well, so we are officially ending it now. Can't even believe this.